Prime Minister, let's kick off with the biggest policy challenge you face, which is, of course, Brexit. You've put forward some proposals for checks away from the border, but Simon Coveney has already said overnight that this is a non-starter. Are we heading towards a no-deal exit from the EU?
There are various papers that have been floating around. The reporting I have seen refers to an idea for border posts, as it were, away from the border. No, we're not proposing that, and I think Simon would be right to reject that. But let's see where we get to.
Some customs checks away from the border.
What I think you need to do is clearly you've got to, the whole of the UK has got to come out of the EU customs union, and if you're going to have Northern Ireland as part of a UK customs union, which is plainly essential, then somehow or other you have to solve the problem of customs checks. Okay. I won't deny that this is the tough bit, Beth.
This is the tough bit.
This is the tough bit.
Can I just say, Theresa May agreed, obviously, and you'll know this very well, in 2017, no hard border. She agreed this was Brussels, with Dublin, or related checks or controls preserving an all-island economy. This is a change of policy, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Just to be clear.
And yes, and you're absolutely correct about that.
And they hate it.
Because the reality is, well, you can't you can't make both things work at once. You have to accept that there's got to be a change.
But Mr. Coveney said it was a non-starter. I mean, you disagree.
Obviously, I do, but I'm not certain that Simon is referring to what we're proposing, because we haven't yet proposed it.
So just quickly, in terms of moving towards a no deal, at the G7 when we spoke, you told me there was a reasonable chance of getting a deal. Do you still feel that now as we go into the crunch point?
I do. I think we're more or less where we were then at Biarritz. I remember our conversation then, and things have actually progressed, and the UK has made quite a big offer, Beth, which I don't think that people perhaps have necessarily appreciated. What we're saying is that we would support alignment between Northern Ireland and Ireland.
Yes,
on
and I know where we're going.
Phytosanitary.
And I'm not going to get in. I don't want to get into the detail of that, because let's wait to see the proposals.
Well, it's one of the things that we have already proposed. There'll be more that we're going to say, but I don't think people, with great respect, I know this sounds complicated, but it's not that complicated. All we're saying is that for the purposes of the Irish market, for the purposes of free movement of cows, of cattle, of agri-foods, of all agricultural and food products, we can treat the island of Ireland as a unit.
Well,
that's a big
at the
concession.
moment, because we've got to wait until the proposals come out. What I would like to move on to is, can the public trust you as the Prime Minister to obey the rule of law?
I think the public can certainly trust this government, first of all, to obey the rule of law, but also to get done what we say that we're going to do. Look at what I've done since I stood on the steps of Downing Street. Said we were going to hire another 20,000 police officers. The recruitment is underway. I said that we would have 20 new hospital upgrades. We're doing that. In fact, in 10 years' time, as a result of the biggest programme of hospital infrastructure for a generation, there are going to be 40 new hospitals.
But I want to talk to you about Brexit.
I said that we'd be rolling out gigabit broadband. And we're doing that.
And we've covered a lot of that in Sky News. You promised to deliver Brexit on October the 31st, but obeying the law also includes the Ben Act, and that requires you to request an extension from the EU by October the 19th, you know it well, unless Parliament has approved a deal or no deal. So help me out. How are you going to do both things?
What we're going to do is we're going to work very hard to get a deal. We've been discussing that. I want to get a deal.
Will you write the letter requesting an extension if you can't?
And what I can tell you is that we will obey the law. And we're going to come out on October the 31st.
So you won't ask for an extension?
And the way to do that, the best way to do that, is to get a deal. I mean, most people in the country would like to see us getting on with Brexit getting it done.
Some people don't support your approach. Even your own brother Joe doesn't agree with your Brexit strategy. And he walked out of your government and he said he'd stand down as an MP just 6 weeks after agreeing to stick by you. And this is what he said. In recent weeks, I've been torn between family loyalty and national interest. It's an unresolvable tension at times for others to take on my roles. That must have been really hard for you.
Yes, yes, but I mean, look, we're a very tight-knit, close-knit family, and we all love each other very much, but there's no doubt about it, we do disagree about this issue. Now, I have to try to think what is in the long-term interest of the country. And I have to try to think how we're going to take this forward in a position where we've spent 3.5 years debating and disputing Brexit. Is it really in the national interest to keep going beyond October the 31st? Is that really a good idea?
Joe obviously felt that this wasn't a strategy you should pursue, and he couldn't stand by you. I mean, I saw you at the G7, your tail was up, and I saw you in Wakefield on the day that Joe announced that he was standing down. You were like a different Prime Minister. You looked really rattled.
Well, you know, I can't comment on that. Beth, I love every day that I'm privileged to do this job.
You didn't look like you were enjoying it that day.
I love every day that I'm privileged to do this job. Obviously, there are disagreements about Brexit. There are disagreements within families. Yeah. And there are different disagreements across the country.
But you're Prime Minister, and this stuff is public as well.
Yes.
I'm only asking this because it's been made public. I'm not trying to pry into what happens behind closed doors.
You're quite right.
It's not just
the point
Joe,
I'm trying to make,
there's
Rachel, there's of course that's right. But the point is that I don't think that we're going to heal this division in our country until we get it done. And there may be people who disagree with that.
Rachel talked about your language though, and she said that my brother using words like surrender and capitulation as if the people stand in the way of the blessed will of the people as defined by the 17.4 million votes in 2016 should be hung, drawn, quartered, tarred and feathered. I think it's highly reprehensible. Did you talk to her about that after she said that to you?
Well, look, I don't want to go into conversations between members of my family, which is, as I say, is a very loving and tight-knit family. But
are you all talking still then?
Of course, but on the substantive issue about the so-called Surrender Act, the Ben Act, yes, I think it is reasonable to describe it in those terms, because what it does, as you've said just now, is it not only obliges or would oblige the UK to stay in the EU, but on the terms set by the EU and for a duration,
and I know you'd like to talk about the Surrender Act, but I'm going to
be decided by the EU.
I'm going to have to move along because I'm running out of time. I wanted to ask you about Jennifer Akuri. You've been accused of failing to declare a potential conflict of interest in relation to the awarding of public funds to Miss Akuri, and you're now potentially facing a criminal investigation. Were you having an affair with Jennifer Akuri?
Look, I've said what I've had to say about that matter, and I think perhaps the most important point is that I'm very, very proud of everything we did in London to promote the city abroad.
I understand that, Prime Minister, and I wouldn't ask
on the question you asked. I never comment on that kind of thing, because
so you're not denying that you were having an affair with her.
The crucial thing is that in terms of promoting London, everything was done with complete propriety, and I may say I think it.
But this is very interesting. The reason I ask is I don't want to talk about your private life. It's the issue about whether you misused public money. That's why I'm asking whether you were having a sexual relationship with her.
There was no question of that at all.
These are the accusations made by a former colleague of yours, Charlotte Edwards, that you squeezed her thigh under a table 20 years ago. Is Charlotte lying?
Well, look, I don't in any way minimise the importance of these types of allegation or this type of thing, but this is not true, and all I can say is that I can't say anything more about it. And what I want to do is focus on the domestic agenda that we have.
Just in terms of Charlotte and whether you say it wasn't true, your Health Secretary Matt Hancock told Channel 4 News, I know Charlotte well, and I entirely trust what she has to say. So he believes her over you.
Well,
a member of your cabinet.
I'm not certain that's the conclusion that I would draw, but I've told you what I have to say about that, and what I want to do is focus on our domestic agenda.
Okay, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.